Yeah. Woo. Let's go. Y'all need to sit back, listen, enjoy the vibe. Sip something, light it up, enjoy the ride. Cause the Sports City Chefs is on tonight. In the kitchen cooking up, they on the rise. Sports City Chefs, Chef. Sports City Chef, Chef. Sports City Chef, Chef. Sports City Chef. Yes, Lord, we got a brand new president. Joe Biden, we riding, I pray you heaven sent. Word from the wise, my people stay ahead. Come on, I've been relevant, trying to survive the elements. It ain't no love in these streets, these dudes telling it. Case go from cold to hot, safe evidence. Kaboom, Sports City Chefs is in the room. Cooking up hot topics to put up on your spoon. They well in tune, blown like a flower in June. Superman verse MF Doom, the clouds loom. So tell a friend it's the Sports City Chefs again. Pay attention, tune in, we on the set again. Sports City Chefs, Chef. Sports City Chefs, Chef. Yeah. Cabin, Taj. Woo! Connecticut.
Yo, what's going on, Sports City? It's your boy Sirius back at the helm, hosting another NFL free-for-all. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with the chefs, and I definitely appreciate that. But you guys know I don't do this by myself, man. You guys know I got my man with me. Villain is in the building. What's going on, Villain? How we doing this evening, sir?
It is glorious. What a day. What a week for football. The Villain is in effect. The Villain is happy. Villain is here. What's going on, baby?
You know what I'm saying? I'm good. You know, feeling a little bit upset about what took place yesterday, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I got my man Thomas in the building. Thomas, what's going on, my guy? How we doing this evening?
I done took off this blazer, loosened up the tie, stepped inside the kitchen. Timeless is alive. I'm sorry that you're feeling down, bro, man. I know you believe, man, and God's with you. These brothers go to church on Sundays, and I'm glad they went. Listen, I was always told somebody praying for me, man. He ain't got to scratch your head, man. Just talk a little bit, man. Just vibe out. I hope everybody's doing okay. I hope the Jordan Foundation doing okay. I hope the Simmons clan is doing all right. With my niece and my nephew holding it down. December still rules forever. I got a lot in the tank. Believe me, I just got out of the mobile gas station. I'm sorry.
Oh, my goodness. Yo, man, it's good to hear from you, man. And man, I got my Cali brother in the building, breaking news. Man, what's going on, my guy? How we doing this evening, sir?
You're on mute. You're taking him off mute.
Brian, you on mute. There you go.
All right. You know what? Maybe I thought my privileges were restricted there, Barry. Hey, it's always a pleasure to talk to you boys. We had a great slate of games. And I think some of the contenders separated themselves from some of the pretenders. Mm-hmm. I was gonna come in with the music they play like at a funeral, but I don't know how you take it. So you know what I mean, because there was quite a few teams' spirits that literally died on Sunday and Monday. But we'll get into it.
My man said, "Come in with the funeral music." You know what? I should put you back on mute. I should put you back on you coming and disrespecting me like that. But it is what it is, my guy. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna waste anybody's time, man. We had a wild card weekend. And I kind of wanted to kind of check the temperature and see what you guys felt about the weekend that was. Did it live up to your billing? I know Villain wrote an article outlining the Peacock subscription and things of that nature, which we'll talk to in a minute. But breaking news, I'll come back to you, man, to kind of start this thing off. How did this wild card weekend fill out for you? Were you impressed? Were you disappointed? How'd you feel?
I loved it, man. I thought it was great. I mean, and I'm sure Timeless is going to agree with this, but to me, hands down, unequivocally, the best game of the weekend was Detroit and the Rams. Mm-hmm. I mean, both of these teams showed up to play. We had so many games where it felt like one team showed up and the other team didn't. Both of these teams showed up. Both of these teams had a ton of heart. Both of these teams, clawed. They both struggled at different points in the game. And really what you saw was really superb quarterback play throughout that game. There was moments that Matt Stafford just absolutely was a superstar, and there was moments where Jared Goff, Rams fans are probably like, wait, why did we trade this guy again? Mm-hmm. So it was a really good that game probably lived up to the billing the most. But I can't lie, man. I got too many Cowboy friends. Green Bay Packer Nation, cheeseheads. Look, I'm a Niner fan, but listen, I'm embracing you right now because the week starts after the show. Man, they beat the brakes off. You know what? Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if Dak is not back next year, as well as he played MVP conversation. Jerry Jones. This team is basically at a point where they're going to start being judged by how they do in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And listen, boys, I mean, let's keep it 100. I don't care about the 15 home victories in a row. They can't win a playoff game. It don't matter if it's at home. It don't matter if it's on the road. It don't matter if it's, in their mind. It doesn't matter where the game is. They get the brakes beat off. And anybody who didn't watch the game, that's like, oh, well, they only lost by 16. They were down 27-0 at one point, and they were down 30 before essentially LaFleur and the Packers basically let up and let them score 2 garbage time touchdowns. That game was out of hand the entire game. But I don't want to steal all your thunder, brother. Thank you guys so much.
Actually, I appreciate you teeing that up for us, man. And we're going to go right back to that Packers-Cowboy recap. Thomas, I'll come to you, sir. That game unfolded Sunday afternoon before your game kicked off. I know you was glued to your seat kind of watching that, preparing for your game. But what do you think about that Cowboy-Packer game as it unfolded on Sunday afternoon?
As I started out the show, you know what I'm saying, I talked about Mr. Jordan and Mr. Simmons and their foundation and what they do on Sundays. They praise the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And I was told in a good movie that came out around the year 2000, it's called Any Given Sunday, where anything can happen. I'm not even going to lie to you people. I believe in karma, right? I believe in karma. What you put out in the world going to come back to you, right? So knowing how things went down week 17 to us, unfortunately, it had to happen to us bad, but things happen, right? But it's like, okay, the get back is going to come back, no matter how we look at it. So thinking of how the game was coming around for the wild card first game, you're looking at it like Green Bay should be outmatched. Dallas is undefeated at home, and they should have a chip on their shoulder, whether it's, the history they have against the Packers trying to accomplish knocking them off, or going up against the San Francisco 49ers and trying to accomplish that feat, and trying to catch them, lacking in California. Mm-hmm. I can't believe the start that the Cowboys got off to in the middle of their own home. Like, let alone like they didn't lose a game this year at home. They were losing almost by 30 at the half. Mm-hmm. Like out the gate, it was that bad. So now I'm kind of, I don't even want to say frustrated, but I kind of want to save the fire for the end of this conversation, but I guess I'm going to really put the dishes out there. This is the stunning part of all of it. No matter if Dallas lost or not, the discussion now becomes they want to either get rid of McCarthy or Dak. And it's like, which one? Are Dallas ready? Are they ready for a rebuild? Because what quarterback do you bring in? And I heard somebody say, you're going to get a quarterback that's coming out of college right now that's not ready for the Cowboys lights. You know what I'm saying? Which one of them? Penix, Bo Nix? And I love Michael Penix. I like Bo Nix. Bo Nix actually did well in Oregon and the little bit of time he spent down there in Auburn. But these guys aren't ready for Dallas right now. Like Drake May, he's a good quarterback out of ACC, but I don't think he could come up there and lift the Cowboys and be in the middle of a NFC East team. There's no real headstrong team in that division. So it's going to be tough, but like I heard the person say, and myself as well, I'm thinking they are stuck with Dak. They have to keep Dak till they see a real stud come out of college. I don't think there's that's not even fair. That's not even fair for a college kid to come out of school and pick up where the Cowboys are leaving off right now. 3 straight seasons of going 12 and 5, I think.
12 and 5.
Right, yeah. 12 and 5, and falling in the playoffs one way or another and trying to accomplish that feat, and while trying to carry the last days of Jerry Jones. That's a lot of work for a kid to do. So I feel bad for the situation that the Cowboys are in. The Packers are playing with house money, and they hit. I got to give them a ton of credit. At least you guys know I'm an NFC North guy. I don't want to see the nemesis, but it's like they came out there gang busting, and Jordan Love, I hate to say this, people in the world that may get mad at this, Jordan Love outplayed Dak Prescott. Period.
I mean, honestly, Thomas, I mean, don't feel bad for stating the obvious. I mean, we all watched the game on Sunday, and Jordan Love showed up and showed out. And, you know, I tip my cap to him for doing that, because we didn't, I don't say we, but a good portion of the world did not expect that, especially in his first playoff game on the road versus that particular team that was expected to do significantly well and make a run in these playoffs. Villain, I'll come to you, sir. Your nemesis Cowboys and Packers game, you know, I guess you went to church and paid your tithes and did all you need to do, because they came home and blessed you. Talk to me about it.
I mean, I talked to, it's so funny, the game was about to start. I called my older brother, who's a Cowboy fan, Taj, who does the intro song with Caviar Matt. Shout out to Caviar and Taj. Go get their music. They're out there. They're streaming. And he was like, don't talk to me. My boy's about to whoop him. I'll talk to you later. I didn't hear from him until a day later. I love you. I love you.
You have to put
he said there was issues
like
with
that.
my phone. He said there was issues with my phone was on. It was ringing. You know what I mean? So I don't. Nah, Taj, you know I'm playing. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. But listen, I wanted to laugh. I was hyped and excited. But once that pick six came up, I was like, damn. Like I knew it was. They didn't. You know, when it was. They drove down the field. They got that first touchdown right off the opening kickoff, went right down the field, 75 yards, no problem. Yep. And then they got the second touchdown. I was like, uh-oh. But when that pick six came, I was like, damn. Like
Dak being Dak.
Yeah, and it was just like Dak falling into those old habits. The team was not prepared. That's McCarthy being McCarthy. And it was like, damn. Like really, like I thought they were gonna win the game. I thought we talked about it last week that Green Bay would keep it close, but like, damn, like you know what I mean? Like it was just bad, and you know, the defense did not show up. The defense got punched in the face for a guy like Dan Quinn, who has been on the top of mind for a lot of people. You know, getting an interview with the Seattle Seahawks. He was going to be one of the hot commodities to get back into the head coaching ranks. And for that kind of performance, really puts a stain on his reputation, on his candidacy, like opportunities. You know, I don't ever want to hear anybody say Michael Parsons is Lawrence Taylor. Don't ever blaspheme. Don't ever let that come out of your mouth, ever.
Hey,
the
Barry,
Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
I got something for you because I want you to expand on this. Why I'm saying it during your segment, but what was your thoughts on the fact that? I mean, it looked like honestly a few times like the Green Bay receivers were playing three flies up. There wasn't anybody within 15 yards. Like you were talking about bad defense. Like it was just like blown assignments, like assignment after assignment, right?
That's being unprepared. That's beyond blown assignments. That's being unprepared. Like the Packers are running it down their throats, Brian, and you're still sitting there in dime package because you have no linebackers. You got a linebacker that's 200 pounds soaking wet. You got Micah Parsons, who isn't really built to be a hand in the dirt every down player, playing hand in the dirt every down. And, you know, it's cute when you're doing it against the Giants and Commanders and he's getting all these pressures and he looks like an enigma, like you can't figure. But when it's crunch time and the Packers out-schemed them with the zone read down blocking and you couldn't come up with you couldn't come up with anything to combat that, that's coaching. That's coaching 101. Like Matt LaFleur out-coached and ran circles around McCarthy and Dan Quinn. And it's no questions asked. That defense gets a lot of empty calories. It gets a lot of it eats off of these teams that just aren't good. The Giants weren't really good early in the season, getting all these pick sixes against them. But when you look at the games that they lost, when they got beat by the Bills, they got handled by the Bills, right? They got handled by the 49ers. They got beat by the Cardinals. They got beat by the those were glaring losses. Like those were losses when I was telling people anybody that would hear me that this defense is not as good as people think it is, but I didn't think it would like get 48 hung up on them in the
No, it was like it was like a full-on meltdown, man. Barry's right. You know, and you know the most glaring thing that really sticks out to me about, as far as the whole do we fire Mike McCarthy or not? Remember Marty Schottenheimer got released after going 12-4. And the one thing that I find very interesting with this situation is when they get punched in the mouth, when Dallas comes out and you can clearly see their game plan's not going to work because LaFleur was the better, more prepared coach. What adjustments do they make? That's what tells the creme de la creme teams. You see teams, and we're going to get to Ty's game, but Detroit came out, and that game could have very easily been exactly like the Cowboy game. Detroit came out; they were on fire. They were all over LA, and you know what? They made some adjustments in the third quarter, totally slowed down that offense, and made it a game. Dallas looks like they are lost. When you scheme it up to where you can win, whatever that is, like we can run it. If we run a 4-wide package, we have an advantage. They don't know how to make adjustments. That's what I feel like. Because if you watch that entire game, boys, the only time they scored essentially until the very, very end is when they had short fields. Don't forget that their first touchdown came off of that huge kick return where they took over essentially at midfield. Don't forget the second points came off of a possession where they started at midfield. And like I said, I'm not counting the last two scores. I'm just not. Like they were garbage time scores. So essentially that vaunted offense, the number one ranked offense, as we've talked about, all they've done all year long is just beat up on bad teams. Because when they played really good teams, I'm not even saying really good defenses. I'm saying when they played really good teams, they crumbled. Just plain and simple.
They crumbled. They don't score in the red zone. That killed them. They
have no running game.
They have no running game.
That is a huge thing.
Me and Taz talked about it. Like they had the golden opportunity. It's serious. We talked about this. They should have gotten Derrick Henry from the Titans. I hated the move, but I was like, that is the perfect move for him because Pollard is not an every down back.
He's a free agent.
Run game. Yeah. And it's like, but it's a year too late because this was your opportunity. The Eagles were on the downward spiral. The only one that you had to contend with was the 49ers. And you got gifted a game against Detroit where if you played them again, they would have had to come into your building and you crapped the bed. And you were not prepared. How do you talk about this as the biggest game or whatever, and you're not prepared? They were not prepared, and they got punched in the face, seriously.
It's funny. Hold on. It's funny because, we talk about how the Dallas Cowboys were not prepared and how the Dallas Cowboys got out coached and this, that, and the third. But I want to flip it on its ear. Matt LaFleur knew his assignment. He knew what he was supposed to do. And let's not be funny here. The Green Bay Packers, routinely have owned the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't matter where they play them. It doesn't matter the circumstances. Aaron Jones seems to have an awesome day. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback, but Aaron Jones and this Green Bay Packers team seems to always own the Cowboys. So when this game came up on the ledger, it didn't shock me. But to your point, the fact that receivers were running wide open, if you can't generate a pass rush and you got, wish.com cornerbacks and secondary, they're going to run wild. I mean, they're going to run free back there. And so it baffles me that this narrative, not here on Sports City, but this narrative is being spun completely on what did the Cowboys do to lose it? The Cowboys lost the ball game. The stuff in the microphone and Jerry Jones' face and talking about, coaching and personnel and players. And while the Green Bay Packers are not getting any type of praise because essentially they went on the road, put their foot to butt, and now, so go breaking news. Talk to me, man.
I really struggle with this, right? Because we all know the most difficult position in all of sports I don't care what sport. You can say baseball, basketball, whatever. The most difficult position is quarterback. And the quarterback accounts for more, if you want, win probability than any other position. Listen, I hate the fact that the narrative, if you look at all the national media coverage, it's basically how the Cowboys lost the game. I watched the same game that you guys did, and I know everybody else watched the same thing. Dude, Jordan Love was under pressure constantly. That kid was throwing off his back foot. He's on the run. That, I got to tell you, and I know some other people here at Sports City have said it, including Timeless, but Jordan Love's got it, dude. He's got the swag. I'm telling you right now, and this is the analogy I like to use, boys. If you switch those two quarterbacks, Dallas wins by 30. I'm telling you, that Dallas is the more talented team. The problem was the best player on that field that day was Jordan Love. And some of the throws he made, I'm telling you right now, 95% of the guys in the NFL cannot make that throw, including my own quarterback. I'm saying, if you run down the list of some of those throws, those, running to the left and throws back to the middle over a outstretched linebacker, like those throws were impressive. Now, there was plenty of throws where people were wide open, like the Musgrave touchdown, where he literally had time to fair catch it. He's waving it down as the ball's coming down and there's no one around. Right. But I'm saying, if you watch the totality of that game, especially in the first half, Jordan Love was running for his life. It wasn't that the defense wasn't getting pressure. They have a similar problem that Philly has. The secondary, the back end, the linebackers in the secondary, I'm sorry, they're not very good. Everybody loves Deron Bland. You know what? Yeah, it's great that you set the record for pick sixes, but you can't. If you don't pick it off, you let them score. I'd much rather have a guy that doesn't bite on every single double move and maybe gives up a whole lot less touchdowns. Because right now, Dallas, the receivers are running, I'm talking wide open. Romeo Dobbs had himself a game. And if you look throughout the season, he hadn't done that, boys. And the reason he hadn't is because he's the intermediate route runner. If you look over the middle, he absolutely destroyed Dallas.
Mm-hmm. And here's the problem, and I'll let you go. I'm sorry, serious. Two things. LaFleur made it easy for Love. McCarthy made it difficult for Prescott. McCarthy all year, he took the duties away. He got Kalen Moore fired and said, I'm going to make the play calls. I'm going to take the ball out of Dak's hands. I'm going to run the ball. They threw the ball more this year, and he made it worse, right? So, but LaFleur, all he did was out-scheme him. He brought a receiver in motion, brought him into the slot, and Dallas has trouble with that motion into the slot and can't cover it. And he just said, I'm going to do it to death, and Dallas didn't change, didn't game plan, didn't make any adjustments at halftime. And about Bland, when you're getting pressure so fast, when Micah Parsons is getting to the quarterback 2-3 seconds at a time, you only got one read. You know that slant is coming. You can undercut it, pick it off, and take it to the house. When that pressure's not getting there and you got to cover for longer, he got exposed. And that's not to say that he's bad, but that's to say that Micah Parsons and Lawrence and company make it so easy for all these cores. When the pressure's coming, you got one read. You got to get it out quick. And when you jump that route, you look like a hero. So it's scheme. It's a lot of the defense that when they got exposed for their weakness. I'm tired of hearing about all the talent that Dallas has. The talent means nothing. 12 wins against 4 of them against the Giants and the Commanders means nothing. Nothing.
Serious. Real quick to add to that. The other thing I want to say is, listen, Mike McCarthy's probably going to lose his job. We all know that. Here's what I would say. Here's something to think in retrospect. Everybody talks about Dak Prescott, right? How well he did other than in the playoffs. I would argue Mike McCarthy might have done his best job coaching this year. I've never been high on Dak. I think Mike McCarthy making him look like an MVP candidate this year is honestly a true testament. I think that where Dallas went wrong, whoever that is, whoever front office, Mike McCarthy, whoever had the final decision, and really where their demise was, is whoever thought that Tony Pollard was an every down back. Not having a legitimate hammer to run between the tackles has killed Dallas this year, because the bottom line is Dak can be good, but if you ask him to throw the ball 40 times, you're playing with fire. Plain and simple. And that is what's happening. Because when they get ahead 30, 40 points, and now they can run the ball if they want, because now defenses are having to stack the box because, hey, they don't want to give up free yards. Decision-making becomes very easy for Dak and company, right? He's got one-on-one. But when you're in a tight-knit game, when you're in the playoffs and you're playing a halfway decent team, decision-making isn't easy. And you know what? I'm sorry. Dak has shown time and time again he's going to get a contract extension. Like you guys said, there's nobody else out there, and I don't even know if it's possible. They do it in baseball. I'd be contacting like the Bears, the Commanders. I'd be like, hey, I'll trade you Dak right now for the number 2 pick. I would sign and trade, baby. I'm telling you, I would rather roll with Drake May than what they currently have. I'm telling you, Dak has hit his ceiling on what he's able to do, and that's not.
You're talking about a complete reset, Brian.
I'm not saying a complete reset. They have talent at wide receivers. They have talent at defense. What they need, listen, the Niners, same situation. Think about this for a minute. Now they hit on the quarterback. They just hit in the wrong round. They drafted Trey Lance in the first. They draft Purdy as the last pick. But the point is if you look, they never rebuilt. They never got rid of Trent Williams. They never got rid of George Kittle. They never got rid of Deebo Samuel. It's the same thing with Dallas. You have a complete team other than the quarterback. I think what they need to do is do whatever they can, because the NFC, let's keep it 100, outside of about 3 teams, maybe 4, is soft. It's paper. Like Dallas got exposed, but the reality is like I said, if Jordan Love's on Dallas, that game, they win by 30. That was 100% came down to quarterback play and the fact that Dallas can't run. They need to get a running back that can actually run the ball between the tackles, and they need to get a quarterback that won't implode when the game is on the line. And that's really what happens. I mean, every time you watch Dak in a crucial moment, it doesn't matter if it's playoffs, it doesn't matter what it is, he literally flames out. We've seen this story too many times.
But, Brian, if you really think that this loss is on Dak Prescott, then you're wrong. And I don't disagree that Dak might be a problem in the long run. Like, he's 2-5 in the playoffs. That's a problem. Like, so is Tony Romo. But there's a lot of problems on this Cowboy team. I don't want to hear about the talent. I don't want to hear about it. Because
Barry, what was the score? What was the score when he threw? What was the score when he threw the first pick?
No, I understand.
And they went in and scored 3 plays later.
I understand, and you're not wrong.
But that's a huge momentum shift, and then he does it again.
That pick happened after that defense that's supposed to be the best defense or one of the best defenses in the league got driven right down the field, 75 yards, no problem, and no resistance. And that defense had opportunities to keep that game close, and they did not do it. The second half. Think about this, Brian. The Cowboys got gifted that touchdown, their first touchdown, because that was a false start. I don't care what anybody says. I tested you, Aaron. I said that's a false start, right? So they got 27-7. They get the ball back in the second half. They can score again. They had all the momentum, and the defense gives up a touchdown right away, right down the field. No adjustments, right down the field. I'm not saying you're wrong, Brian. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott's going to get $60 million if he stays in Dallas. Is it a crime?
He might get more than
that. Right, exactly. He's played at an MVP level all season. One game shouldn't define his status, but since it's such an important game, it's a playoff game, I agree with you. But to say that game is on him completely is totally wrong.
I'm not saying
Lamb
it's all on
looked
him.
like he got lost in the headlights. CeeDee Lamb looked lost, right? Mike McCarthy did not have that team prepared. Dan Quinn did not make adjustments on defense. Micah Parsons disappeared. They have no linebackers. The first thing they should draft is a linebacker on that team. The secondary got exposed. Like, they beat up on Stephon Gilmore. there's a lot of problems on this team, and they've got masked because they beat up on bad teams. That's all I got.
Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you about that, but what I would encourage you to do is look at Dak Prescott's MVP season and see how he performed when he played against teams like San Francisco.
Absolutely.
See how he performed against quality teams that made the playoffs. What I'm saying is if you look in the brightest moment when they needed him the most, outside of the Seattle game, the Seattle game is the only game I can think of in the last 2 years where they were down or where they needed him to actually step up and score, and he actually did that. Dak, unfortunately, has a propensity to turn the ball over. And here's the reality. It's just the reality. It doesn't matter how good you are in the NFL. These are all professional athletes. You could be the number one offense or you could be the number one defense. At some point, you're going to falter. You're going to. Baltimore's offense, they're going to falter at some point. You look back through the season, they had games where they scored less than 17. You look back, you look at San Francisco's defense, top 5 defense. If you look back, they had games where they gave up 30 plus. My point being is you're going to have games where your team does not give its best. And in that moment, you need the other parts of that team, special teams, offense or defense, whatever it is, to step up. And what I'm saying is Dak consistently does not do that. And I can't help but think when you're playing Green Bay, they're playing with house money. They come out and score against your team. You immediately go 3 and out. They get the ball back. They score. Then you turn the ball over. All you've done is taken the youngest team in the league, and now they got some swag in your own building. The point being is Dallas not – once again, you're right. Dak is not the only reason they lost, but he's a major reason they lost.
Right. Gentlemen, I wanted to move on from the Dallas Cowboy Green Bay Packer game and talk about another team that seems to play small versus big competition, and that's the Miami Dolphins. People call them another fraudulent team, and they limped their way to the playoffs and went up to Arrowhead, and that game didn't look as close as the score would indicate. Thomas, I wanted to start with you, sir, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins game. What essentially stood out to you as you watched that frozen game unfold on Saturday evening on Peacock?
I'm from the New England region of the United States, East Coast area, and around this time it gets pretty cold. And the crazy part about this situation is those Florida boys are not ready for no cold weather. I really feel like that played a significant factor in that game. And knowing that Tua could not make those passes, that team was one-dimensional. I'm not gonna say it looked like or anything. All they could do was run the ball. Tua was a bat out of hell, or he really couldn't make anything happen. And at this point, the Chiefs are actually making catches. They're back dangerous now. If they can complete passes and Mahomes ain't got to worry about nothing other than his play, they're the team to beat. They're the reigning champions at this point in time. It's a struggle situation looking at this because it's like everything that the Dolphins have done up until this point, you want to see them kind of turn this around. And Tyreek was on a record pace. He was actually trying to break the NFL receiving yard record and, unfortunately fell injured the week before the last one. But I really look at the Dolphins situation. They've been injured like throughout this season. I don't want to say all throughout, but Waddle's never consistent on his field. And the worst thing about Waddle, when he came out of college, he came out injured, and he never really got that turnover to be on the field. And now you got Waddle, another speedster, on top of what Tyreek brings to the game. You're thinking that these guys could puzzle defenses because of what they did throughout the season. And then just like you said, the big games that they come up with, they fall short. And if this defense is facing a deficit, they don't have a lockdown defense. They have great players on that defense like Howard and, so on and so forth. And I'm like, Ramsey, that's the corner I'm thinking of. Like, these guys on the outside, they know what time it is. But these guys are more southern based. They're at the southernmost part of the United States, or if not, it may be Texas, but the lower portion. But anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like, them coming into below zero weather and not really ready for that. They trying to get acclimated for it. Tyreek tried to come out in t-shirt. Like, they weren't ready for it. Like, you could just see the way that they were not adapt or accustomed to that situation, even though that's the type of football that we grew up on. But I feel like that element played a significant role in this game. Tua did not look like himself, and I know that if I put the measuring stick up, I know Tyreek sat up there and said Tua's better than Mahomes. I don't think so. But in this game, you would want to see it being in a playoff game, and it still didn't look like that. Like he looked like he didn't like they needed to pull the backup in before it got as bad as that, turned out being. It wasn't no super blowout, but the Dolphins looked outmatched.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to talk about really quickly before we go to the rest of the chefs, it baffled me, honestly, that you mentioned the defense. I want to say this: they lost two of their outside linebackers late in the year. So I wonder how that game would have unfolded if Bradley Chubb was able to play, if Phillips was able to go. Both men were out due to injury. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey was playing, but I don't think they had Xavier Howard, up and ready to go on Saturday either. But I think this comes at a point in time where the Kansas City Chiefs didn't look the part. They struggled with drops. They struggled with fill in the blank. But what I saw on Saturday was the recipe that they used last year to catapult them into a Super Bowl. They ran the ball. Isaiah Pacheco ran like he was a man possessed. Patrick Mahomes made the smart read. He used his legs, got out, made some things happen. They found another weapon in the rookie Rice that seemed to come into his own. They benched and didn't give a helmet to Kadarius Toney, punchline. He couldn't drop anything for him. He couldn't line up in the wrong formation, et cetera, et cetera. He didn't force feed the ball to Travis Kelce, and not to mention their defense tackled exceptionally well. One of the things I'm going to point out when we start talking about the games from yesterday, both from Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, I'm going to talk about the missed tackles that I saw. We didn't see that from the Kansas City Chiefs defensive side. Once they hit a man, he went down. And that tipped my cap to Spags. He had that team ready to rock and roll. Villain, I'll come to you, sir. Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins unfolded on Peacock on Saturday evening. How'd you feel about it?
I didn't watch the game. I didn't watch it on Peacock, so I had to watch the replay the next day, and I got kind of updates. But once I watched the game, two things. I kind of agree with TP about Kansas City because I agree with you too. Their defense this is probably the best defense that Mahomes has had since he's been in Kansas City. It's young, it's fast. Like last year, they were really young, but they got a year under their belt, so they're really talented. That Chris Jones is amazing, but this offense to me will not be enough to win a championship. I'm still looking at an offense that settled for 4 field goals. 4 field goals. That's a problem for me. This is an offense that this was a year or two ago. That was a 40-burger that they put up on the Dolphins, especially a Dolphins defense that was, to your point, missing Howard, missing their safety, missing a bunch of linebackers, Jerome Baker and company, had so many injuries on that defense with Bradley Chubb, which was such an unfortunate injury. To have that defense so ravaged by injuries, and you're at home and you're still settling for field goals, you can't score in the red zone. I mean, Rice had a good game, but you can't rely on any other receivers. I'm sorry, that offense to me is just not enough to get it done. When you have to face the Ravens, you might have to go toe to toe with CJ Stroud. I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't see that. I don't see it with that offense, right?
Well, see,
so that's a problem for me. And then on the other side, the Dolphins it's been almost 23 years or so. If it wasn't for the Cowboys on their side, the Dolphins would be in the longest drought, right? They haven't won a playoff game. Tua, I mean, everybody wants to kill Tua, say, is he the guy? Should he be that was his first playoff game. Think about that. That was his first playoff game. So I'm not going to sit here and kill Tua, but the Dolphins, they got to get healthy, but they're a flash team. When they just like the Cowboys, when you punch them in the mouth, they can't respond. They're too finesse in the playoffs. You got to be able to stop the run and run the football. They can't do that. So that's a problem for me with the Dolphins. So they got to retool it. But to me, I think good win by Kansas City. I think they did what they had to do at home, but I don't know if it's enough to carry them through a whole playoff run. I don't believe what everybody's saying.
So here's why I disagree. And breaking news, I'll come to you here in a second, sir. I think that they did what they needed to do to get out the stadium with the win. Right. I will say this. If the Kansas City Chiefs need to put up points, and I think playing the Buffalo Bills this week, they're going to need to put up points. Yep. I think that they have enough to get it done. Ultimately, that defense kept them from losing grip of the rope so many times this year. Like that defense is proven. Right. And again, it's going to get seriously tested this week playing the Buffalo Bills, who have seemed to caught fire, and Josh Allen is, doing his thing. But I do believe that as long as you got 1-5 and somebody out there to throw the football to, Andy Reid can scheme up something to get him over the hump. Like breaking news, talk to me, sir. Kansas City gets a win against the Miami Dolphins. How'd you feel about it?
Yeah, I think Barry and Ty have basically hit on this. I feel a little differently than they do. I mean, I think the game went exactly as I expected. Couple key stats for you boys. Number one, Tua is 0-9, going all the way back to college in games where the weather is 10 degrees or less. So he's not a very good cold weather quarterback as of so far in his career. Obviously that can change, but it could have to do with a lot of things. But here's what I would say to you boys. If I told you I was going to take my 4x4 truck and I was going to race a Ferrari on the freeway, what do you guys think the percentage chance would be that I would win that race? Not very good. Not very good. But if we take those same two vehicles, right, and now we're racing off-road, right, in rugged terrain, and it's a lot of, snow and sleet, and probably a darn good chance I'm now going to win, right? Mm-hmm. That's the problem. The Dolphins season, unfortunately, nobody wants to remember this. The Dolphins season ended 2 weeks ago, unfortunately, when they lost to Buffalo. They had a fourth quarter lead. All they had to do was wrap up home field advantage. And if the playoffs would have went through Miami, like, I feel differently about them than I do Dallas. I think they can beat good teams. I don't think, they're like Barry said, they're very injured right now. Number one. Number two, this team is absolutely it's a track meet. So you take a track meet team, a finesse team, if you want to call it that. I think it's kind of disrespectful. Mostert played for the 49ers. He can run inside. But listen, if you look at all their running, it's all outside zone runs. It's all to the edge. It's all trying to do misdirection. That don't work, man, when it's minus 12 degrees. The ground is frozen over. The footing's not very good. Your muscles, as you guys know, you're from cold weather. Your muscles just don't react the way that you're used to them reacting in that cold of weather. And I think it was a huge emphasis in the game that they were playing at Kansas City, not even because of the crowd noise, because of the weather. That is something that you can't get used to until you play in it. And I really think that was a deciding factor. Kansas City did what they had to do. But as Barry's alluded to, I have some serious concerns with Kansas City. I don't think they're going to – I know you said, I think they'll be fine. But, I don't know that they can just, quote, unquote, turn it on. I don't know if other teams are going to let, Rice run drag routes all game long and pick up 150 yards. And if he can't do that, Mahomes has him and Kelsey and nothing else. Mm-hmm. The three biggest play in the game were 2 runs by Patrick Mahomes and a touchdown by Ray Rice. I mean, honestly, that 4th and 4 where he ran for 30 yards to put them inside the red zone, Patrick Mahomes, that was one of the biggest offensive plays Kansas City had all day. And I understand the weather plays into that, but let's keep it 100. You're going to Buffalo. You guys just played their series. What do you think the weather's going to be like?
It's going to be cold.
It ain't going to be bright, sunny, and shiny and feel like Miami weather. I promise you that.
Right.
So, that would be what I would say. I think Miami, keep in mind, I think McDaniels has done an outstanding job with that team. I do think they need a possession receiver. I do think whether A-Chain can be that guy or not, I would like to see them get a banger to run between the tackles a little bit better. But that defense is so beat up, man. If you were to give them a grade, you'd have to give them incomplete. Literally, we just mentioned – their 3 or 4 best players outside of Ramsey were not even in the game. So that's part of the problem right there. But don't want to make excuses. Bottom line, Kansas City won the game. But like I said, if you're running on an off-road track and it's a Lamborghini versus a truck, one might be faster than the other one, but it's not necessarily going to win on that surface. It was kind of one of those matchups. Unfortunately, I think Miami's season was over the previous week when they allowed Buffalo to come back in the fourth quarter and beat them.
Right.
And I think it was done before that. Sirius and Brian and TP, if you're there too, they had every opportunity to lock this division up. They were 9-3 at one point, coming out of the Commanders game where they embarrassed them. They lost a close game to the Titans. They beat the Cowboys. Even to that point, they beat the Cowboys and at home, and they had an opportunity to win one game to lock that division up. They went from being a 2 seed to being on the road in the coldest game of the year, and maybe in history, one of the coldest games in history, and that's their fault. The injuries is all a part of it, but when they got embarrassed by the Ravens, that game took their heart out, and it took one of their best players out. But when the Ravens smacked them around, that was it. And you had a chance at home against a division rival to lock up that division, and you didn't do it. That's a problem. And the Dolphins
Tennessee loss
that killed them.
That Tennessee loss honestly killed them. Honestly,
that's a game that they shouldn't have lost. They shouldn't have lost that game.
Yeah, I'm just saying, even
going into Kansas City, playing them overseas, they probably should have won that game. There's games they don't play well against good teams. They got their one win against the Cowboys, but who are the Cowboys, right? So now you're like, what is this Dolphins team? We've been talking about it all year. They don't have quality wins on their schedule. They had 2 chances to do it, and they didn't do it against the Ravens. They didn't do it against the Bills at home. You had a home game Sunday night. Everything on the line, and you failed. Dolphins aren't real.
Talk to me, breaking news. Talk to me.
I mean, listen, I get what Barry's saying. That's what I'm saying. But like I said, for me personally, I don't put them in the same boat as the Cowboys because we've seen this song and dance from the Cowboys 3 years in a row. Literally 3 years in a row. The Niners had knocked them out 2 years in a row in the playoffs. Every year was like, oh, this is our year. This is our year. They went 12. They literally, here's the funniest thing, guys. And you'll know now because I'm bringing it up right now. But if I was to ask you who's had the best record in the NFL over the course of the last 3 seasons, most people would not think it's Dallas, but it is. They've went 12-5 each of the last 3 seasons and have gotten knocked out in the first round each time. That's pitiful, man. That is pitiful. To not be able to win one home playoff game for your fans, it's pitiful. And you know what? There's some mental mistakes there and all that, but I'm saying, like to Barry's point alluded to, I think you have to give some grace to Miami. Young team, they had a lot of injuries. I'm not giving them a pass. I'm just saying you have to put the win into context or the loss into context. As he mentioned, Tua's first playoff game. It's a road game against Patrick Mahomes and company, and probably, let's keep it 100, probably the most difficult stadium to play in Arrowhead. People talk about Quest, now it's not Quest, but the old Seahawks Stadium. But I'm saying it's pretty darn hard to go into Arrowhead and play, especially when it's -4 degrees. Those were about the worst conditions you could possibly have in that game. But you know what? Kudos to Kansas City. They did exactly what they needed to do. The defense showed up. They played well. But like I said, we're going to talk about some other teams, and we've already talked about some teams like Dallas. There's some teams that just flat out did not show up. I thought Miami played hard. I really did. I thought the defense played hard, to keep them out of the end zone, to try and get them off the field. I think they were just put in a really rough spot. It didn't feel like they didn't play. Now, when we get to teams like Philly, I've seen high school teams tackle better. Like, honestly, there's some teams that just flat out gave up. I didn't get that from Miami. So they should have their heads up. Like you boys alluded to, it's unfortunate that you had an opportunity to host a home game. If nothing else, you know what they'll know next year? You're damn right when we want to host Kansas City at home. So they're going to make sure they handle business next year. But, as far as this year's concerned, kudos to Kansas City making it to the next round. And I got to tell you, boys, I am actually super excited for that matchup because, we've seen all the things that Josh Allen can do on his own. Like a 60-something yard run to really start to break that game open for the Bills. That defense for the Kansas City Chiefs, no joke, man. They look really good.
Yeah. Before we move on, let me pay some bills very quick. Shout out to PHI Apparel for sponsoring this show, and the rest of the show is here on Sports City Chefs Network.
This portion of our program is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company. PHI Apparel Company provides unique designs and high-quality clothing for the great fans of the Philadelphia area. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt that you'll stand out in the crowd. Act now and listeners can use the promo code CHEFS for 15% off any apparel when you shop online at phiapparel.co. That's phiapparel.co. Remember to use the promo code CHEFS for 15% off. Act now while supplies last.
Shout out to PHI Apparel for sponsoring this show, and the rest of the shows here on Sports City Chefs, the network. Check out their merchandise. The Philadelphia Eagles got bumped, but I'm sure they have some Jason Kelce stuff who announced his retirement. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But the Philadelphia 76ers are rolling. Baseball's about to kick back off. So shout out to the Philadelphia fan base and PHI Apparel for sponsoring this show. I wanted to transition from what we were just talking about as it pertains to the Kansas City Chiefs and talk about another game that kind of unfolded the way we all thought it would, and that is the Houston Texans beating the brakes off the Cleveland Browns. Villain, you spoke about C.J. Stroud previously, and I wanted to kind of start with you, sir. C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans really put the belt to the backside of the Cleveland Browns. A lot of people are going to say they were fraudulent. They're on their fourth quarterback. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year, all the things. But DeMeco Ryans had this squad ready to play, and I couldn't be happier. Talk to me about how the Texans got it done this weekend, kicking off Wildcard weekend for the NFL.
Yeah, man, shout out to DeMeco Ryans to take that team from where they were last year. Like we said, they were a disgrace of an organization. They were a dumpster fire. All their stars wanted out of there, like Watson, Watt, Hopkins, etc. To get from that point where, they hire a coach in 1 year, they fire him to get to where they are right now is just truly remarkable. CJ Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, no question about it. He just looks the part, man. He is confident. He's strong in the pocket. He makes good throws. He makes good decisions with the football. And he showed it that Saturday night. And he was just on it, right? The running game was solid, but he was just making throws, making his receiving core look like the best receiving core in the world, right? Nico and company. He was amazing. The defense was flying around, but I said it on a show or two back, a couple weeks back, that the Browns were a dangerous team the way they were playing because they got one of the best defenses. The defense didn't play very well. Mm-hmm. And I said, Bro Flacco was back, and Joe Flacco was back. He was back.
I told you. Give it time.
He give it time. He was back to his old tricks, just just making silly throws, in the pocket, about to get sacked, throwing it up in the air to get intercepted, throwing pick sixes, taking the team completely out of the game. Once he threw the pick sixes, I think he threw a couple of them or what have you. It just snowballed. The team could not get back up, and they couldn't get back in the game. Give the Browns credit for all the injuries that they had, the players that they lost, their quarterback, their star running back, etc. A lot of offensive linemen. To be at this point where they were an 11-win team in the playoffs was a really remarkable feat. But you could see that Joe Flacco is who he is and who he's always been. When he's careless with the football, he just tears your team down, and that's exactly what happened. They just could not get off the mat when your quarterback is just giving the ball. You cannot throw those type of interceptions in a playoff game. You can't do it. You have to eat the sack at that point. You got to take care of the football. He didn't do it. That defense was opportunistic. They took advantage. They were flying around. They were inspired at home. It took off from there. So yeah, give Houston a lot of credit. They earned that win, and they really put no doubt in anybody's mind that they can play some football.
Yeah. Thomas, I'll come to you, sir. Wildcard weekend kicked off with the Texans and the Browns. I kind of want to hear how you feel about it as it pertains to, the Texans, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback. They had to scrap and claw to get themselves into this position, got some help to win the division, and now they're moving on to face the number 1 seed on Saturday. Talk to me how you feel, sir.
There was a story that was told like a long time ago where the movie was like re-aired in the 2000s, and it was called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if you've seen it, but boy, oh boy, it was being distributed to the American public this weekend. I can't believe the way the Texans came out and played. The worst part about it was the defense didn't even have to do much, and that's the one thing I wanted to see come out there and do, to see if the Texas defense could come out there in full throttle. They got those pick sixes and didn't even really need it. Like, Flacco was giving them the game, let alone the Browns. Like, I feel bad about the Browns situation because Nick Chubb was supposed to be there, and he tore his knee for the second time in his career. I don't even know if he'll ever be the same again. Like, you want to see this type of running back come out there and help him. Like, they needed that running game to get Flacco started because Flacco needs time. He's slow and he's 38 at this point in time. Like, him sitting back there with a revved up team, loud environment, and on the road, I get it. The Browns are playing with house money. I feel like they're playing house money, even though they came into that game 11-6 and playing good ball out of the AFC North. I don't even feel comfortable in saying this. They were outmatched up against a rookie quarterback, especially the way that C.J. Stroud came in there. C.J. Stroud looked way better than Joe Flacco. I don't want to say he looked better. They looked like two different level of quarterbacks. You couldn't tell which one was a Super Bowl winner and which one was a rookie, the way that game looked. So I feel bad for the pieces that the Browns do have. Like, I got to be biased. I am a somewhat of a Amari Cooper fan. I'm a diehard Njoku fan. I want to see David do well. Of course, if y'all don't know, I'm a diehard Hurricane fan. But other than that, it's like you just want to see a good game. And I really feel like out of all of the games, this was the blowout that startled a lot of people. And I know if y'all know me, especially Sports City, there's a city near California. It's a valley. It gets pretty hot during the summertime. And I know a ton of people probably looked at the hype that was going to be around that team that's in the Midwest, aka they call it the armpit of America in Ohio. I thought that a lot of people probably thought the Browns were going to turn the corner, and I feel like Vegas pulled the lever on a slot machine that said cha-ching and popped whoever wanted to come in there and risk putting money on them because it was a total outmatch. And I don't even know where Cleveland goes from here. I don't know if Cleveland felt more comfortable if Deshaun was healthy, if, even though he's out for the season or whatever, but to be the quarterback, the guy to see, because Deshaun's on his second season-ending injury. You know what I mean? Like, because he come back and turn this around. They gave him $200+ million to make this his team, and he's only been there for a year and change and really hasn't caused significant change there, while you got a young gun that, to me, I'm going to be personal, I may get some flack. I feel like CJ already got a leg up on Deshaun. Like, already. Deshaun may have been a threat years ago, but he's missed the game for so many games. It's like they almost even level. Like, as much as he's adapted to and get to the playoffs this first season, there's going to be a lot of teams in the AFC that come for the Browns at this point in time, knowing that they're a stout defense also. So, and the Browns have had some impressive wins this season. They just weren't ready for the likes of being in Texas to make it happen. So, it's a tremendous turnaround for the Texans. I can't believe I'm saying this. The Browns have to go back to the drawing board. And hopefully the offseason, Nick Chubb works his tail off to get back. And he's a running back that I do like, but he can't be the savior for their problems again. Like, they need help outside of that. But the defense was looking good, but not in that game.
Breaking news. I'm assuming that you, Thomas, mentioned going back to the drawing board for the Cleveland Browns. And I'm gonna give you that question there. But if you want to parlay that into talking about how the game unfolded from your perspective, be my guest.
Yeah, I think Joe Flacco is who we thought he was, man. I mean, listen, everybody, I know he was 4-1, right, in his 5 starts, and everybody gets excited about that. And they all like, man, he threw 13 touchdowns. Yeah, but you're not talking about the fact that he threw 8 picks in those 5 games. Like, that's Joe Flacco. Like, he'll throw a 65-yard dot, and you'll be like, wow. And then he'll overthrow the screen pass, the speed out to the running back and hit a linebacker, and the guy just, pick 6. Like, that's kind of who Flacco is. And like was mentioned, I believe, by Barry, the defense just did not look like the number 1 defense in the NFL. And like I talked about earlier with the Cowboys, every team is going to have a game or two where you just don't perform at your best. And you know what? It's unfortunate, but the Browns picked the worst possible time to have their worst defensive performance of the year. And you know what? I do want to mention this because not a lot of people are mentioning it, especially the media. Everybody want to give the Texans like a bunch of, love and this and that, and even Stroud. Like, kudos to that coaching staff. Like, let's not underplay the fact that their number 1 receiver, Tank Dell, went out. They've lost multiple weapons this year, and Bobby Slowick and D'Amico Ryans and that staff have done a fantastic job. And it's funny because I actually a little bit, guys, bought into the narrative when I was doing my scouting reports, when I was looking at the games from evaluating Stroud and Bryce Young as they were coming out. I had Stroud a little higher, and the more and more I looked at it, I was like, maybe Bryce Young is a little bit better. So I ended up flipping it. I just didn't have the courage to keep it like that. And you know what's funny? I feel like Stroud basically was handcuffed at Ohio State, because the one game that Stroud got to be Stroud was in the national championship game versus Georgia. And you can't watch that game without dropping your jaw. The plays that he makes in that game, both with his legs, and everybody said he was a statue, like Tom Brady or Drew Bledsoe. He is not that guy. The man can move. And you know what? I'm just going to say this. Division rival, but it's a little unfortunate how good Stroud has been, because for the first 12 weeks, he was an MVP candidate and then got injured. He very well could have been an MVP candidate at the end of the year if he hadn't got injured. But Puka Nacua set an all-time rookie record in receptions and touchdowns, and this guy's still going to win Rookie of the Year, even though Nacua went over 1,400 receiving yards, which is absolutely incredible. And in the playoff game, had 181 receiving yards. We'll probably, honestly, not even get one first-place vote, I would think. Stroud has been that good. And I only mention the other gentleman because he deserves. Any other year, I think he's a runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year, but Stroud has just been that unbelievable. I think next year it will not be unusual or unheard of, or people will not question. I think the level he's playing at right now, I think you could make an argument that he's a top 10 quarterback. He has just elevated everyone around him. I mean, you think about what listen, I'm going to name these names off to you. Here's his wide receiving core. Nico Collins, Tank Dill, Robert Woods, a guy that's been thrown off 2 of the last 3 teams he's been on, Noah Brown, and at this point, Brown is out, so now we're down to Michi. Like, it doesn't matter who you put in there, man. They just produce
Dustin
over and
Schultz.
over and over. And Schultz, the tight end. Thank you. But my point being is, tell me one of those guys I just named to you that would start for any other playoff team. I don't know if you could. I mean, I'm just being honest. That's not disrespectful to those guys. But the real key to this cog to this offense, the offensive line has done a good job, but the coordinator and the QB have been lights out. And I'm telling you right now, if they play like they just played against Cleveland, it ain't gonna matter who they play. It ain't gonna matter.
It's gonna be an interesting game looking at this Houston Texans team going up to Baltimore to play them, and we'll break down that particular game on next week's show. But we have reached the time where I wanted to kind of let the cat out the bag and break down this Detroit Lions versus LA Rams matchup. You mentioned Puka Nacua potentially, being the rookie of the year. I said in the chat that I would give it to him. That's no disrespect to CJ Stroud, but that man is a man possessed, if you will. But looking at what Puka Nacua was able to accomplish as a rookie, and again, I don't need to go through the stats, Mr. Hughes. You just laid it out there. But Thomas, I'm gonna give you the ball, sir. I'm gonna let you run with it. Your Detroit Lions got a close one and advanced. Tell me how you felt about it. Obviously, you're excited, but if you can lay your emotion aside for a second and just break down the X's and O's, and tell me how you felt that kind of played out. We could talk about the excitement stuff as we go through, my man. But Thomas, the floor is yours. Talk to me, sir.
I'm gonna do this as civil as I possibly can. The first thing that I look at the other side of the ball with the Rams is something. They say you get what you ask for, and for years, if you know me personally or being in this kitchen, I've always stated, for us to win, it may hurt people around me, but we're gonna have to get rid of Stafford. We're gonna have to get rid of Stafford. And it's like looking down the barrel of a gun at the time when the heat is on, it's on. And it's like, hearing all throughout the week, oh, this is the worst nightmare for the Lions that they playing, and that the guy that built Ford Field and so on and so forth, and he left, and his first season out, he gets a championship in Los Angeles. What would be the most Detroit thing is if they lost to Stafford, they probably like crumble. It's like hearing all of that, but in my mind, I got the mind frame of just like we got to go out there and play our game. And that's exactly what they did. They went out there, played their game, and you know, came out blazing guns. But the one thing was like I wasn't worried about what we could do offensively because that's what got us here. Our offense has been strong enough to get us to the postseason. It's like what can the defense do? Because that's been the Achilles heel of question. If we had any piece of the defense playing strong, I feel like we could go to war with anybody with extreme confidence. But that's still the one thing that we got to think about every game is how we stop this, how we stop that. And Stafford, once he got comfortable, we couldn't stop what he was doing throwing the ball unless he made an error, whether he tripped over his own feet or, didn't see anybody, nobody was available for him, and then it's left on him. And then Hutchinson gets a sack just by touching him with his hand. Like, we didn't really earn too much on the defense, but at the end-all situation, Detroit did just enough to pull that game out. Puka Nacua couldn't be stopped the way that he was playing ball. It was frustrating me because Cam Sutton was having a tough time even trying to, get back. And that's a tough assignment, the years that he's put in as a vet, being Sutton and Puka being a young guy trying to prove himself and as a threat across the league. Himself as a top-notch rookie in the offensive game. There's not too much that they get to go off of, especially them being a NFC West team, and we didn't get to play any NFC West teams yet this season. So I give the Lions defense a ton of credit for being able to pull this off. But it was something said that Puka would have, ran away with it with the offensive rookie of the year. If Detroit didn't have so many pieces on the field, Sam Laporta just broke NFL records with an S. And Jahmyr Gibbs was sharing the ball with David Montgomery. Both of these guys basically had 1,000 yards. Gibbs missed it by like 40 yards and missed like 2 or 3 games. Like that, this guy is stunning when he has the ball out there in the open. So there's a lot of damage that the Lions could have done. The one thing that does question me is how Ben Johnson let up off the gas. I'm like, if Stafford is out there knowing that he's gonna have a chip on his shoulder to make it happen in Detroit, we got to put up just as many points as they are when they get on the field and turn back around and do the same thing. But Detroit held on with 24 points to pull that off at home. I don't think it's going to be that safe to have that type of point total going up in the future. But just the fact that they were able to get a stop on the last drive, that everybody's, speaking about the flag, the no call flag of Puka being interfered with or pulled. The Lions finally survived a game where a play went our way. I can think about years on end on how many games went the other way for the Lions, something crazy. I can remember Golden Tate getting tackled at the goal line, and they saying the game was over because they did a runoff because they made a mistake calling a touchdown. Like, so many different. Even in this game, they called false start, and one of the linebackers for the Rams went offsides. It's like, okay, so then if that happens, this happens. No tip for tat. We got to do what we got to do at the end of the day. Even though we're fortunate to pull that out, it's like finally in 3 decades, a call goes our way and the world still goes crazy. They still have to play perfect football. No, I was taught 2 words about the past 10 years. One, pride.
Yeah. Breaking news. I'll come to you, sir. You kind of alluded to it when you were talking about C.J. Stroud, but Puka Nacua, a division rival of yours, kind of put on a show in his playoff debut. The Lions found a way to get a win versus all odds, if you will. I don't say all odds, but against some odds. I for one, picked the Rams to win this ball game. And I'll talk about my reasoning here in a minute. But the Lions got it done, man. Talk to me, man.
Yeah, I think hands down, not just because of the score, but I think hands down this was the best game of the weekend, and including Monday because it was a holiday. But this was the best game. I think both of these teams showed up. I think both of these teams played hard, and it was very much a back and forth contest. It was ironic to see. I don't know what his receiving total was. I think he had like 5 or 6 catches for like 85 yards. Reynolds, him and Goff are former Rams. They were basically the entire offense in the first quarter. It was just Reynolds. Wherever he went, that's where the ball was going. And I really feel like that opened things up for St. Brown because they oftentimes, and I'm sure Ty will agree with this, they oftentimes try to force feed St. Brown, even if he's doubled or tripled. I really feel like Reynolds had a big part in that pass attack really working because Goff didn't just hone in immediately on Brown. Reynolds did his thing in the first quarter. 2 biggest things in that game for me, Ty's mentioned the calls and this and that. Listen, every team gets a couple calls their way, a couple calls that go against them. But to me, the 2 biggest things in the game, there was multiple times that the Rams had the ball inside the 20 in the second half, and they couldn't punch it in. So kudos to the defense, and by far the best drive of the entire weekend. Everybody likes opening drives. Call me a sucker for game-ending drives. There was 4 minutes and change. They're only up by 1 score, and Detroit basically clears the clock out. Getting 2 first downs and just playing hard, man. And you know what? Kudos to them. That's what you want to do. You don't, there's so many coaches in the league that literally, get social anxiety disorder and literally, they clam up and they, run a fullback dive directly into the back of their center 3 plays so they can run 2 minutes off and then just play defense. This team was throwing the ball out. Well, I'm sure Ty knows, but I want to say there was at one point there was a first down they picked up. It was like 3rd and 8. Mm-hmm. There wasn't anybody in that building that thought they were going to throw the ball on 3rd and 8 on their own side of the field. But they, you know what? That is literally what Campbell has done all year long. he went for it and they picked it up, and that's why they're where they're at now. So to me, that was the biggest thing of the game. Is the biggest takeaway is Detroit. Detroit has a little bit of a gambler mentality, like their coach, and they're fearless. They really are. They played a hell of a game. Stafford threw for 370 yards. I mean, we'll save it for next week. I'm a little concerned about that Detroit secondary. Little concerned. So we'll see how things go. But you got to give them their kudos, man. You know, it's been 30 years since they won a playoff game, especially a home playoff game, and they earned every bit of that, man. They earned it. That was the hardest fought victory the entire weekend. Both of those teams honestly deserve to win. But like I said, that last 4-minute stretch was the best football that I've seen all weekend.
Yeah. And here's the thing, and Barry, I'll come to you here in a second. That's the reason why, breaking news, that I picked the Rams to win this ball game. If you look at the Detroit Lions secondary, they have been getting shredded like nobody's business. Like, no disrespect to their offense. Their offense is able to go up and down the field. You know, there's a meme that's going around where, you know, Dan Campbell has his genitals in a wheelbarrow and he's rolling it down the field because that's how he plays and that's how he coaches. And again, hats off to him. But at the end of the day, you got to stop somebody. And when you got a Puka Nacua, who arguably has a case to be Rookie of the Year, when you got a Cooper Kupp, whose resume need no endorsement from anybody here, that offense is going to be able to move the football. And so for those reasons, I thought that the LA Rams would get the win. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, talk about officiating because honestly, I'm over that. You know, I'm not going to sit here and talk about the simple fact that one player got this and one player got that. I'm not going to talk about that. But you hit the nail on the head, Brian. When you're inside the red zone and you have to settle for threes instead of scoring touchdowns against a team that has the ability to match you score for score or put points on your own, or put points on, you know, on the board themselves, that came back to bite you in the butt. Again, hats off to the Detroit Lions. I mean, it's 30 years since they got it done. I don't think you know, a lot of people were alive when that happened. Barry Sanders was in the building. All the Detroit Lion greats, you know, Calvin Johnson was there. Everybody was there. But for me, this game came down to executing or lack thereof in critical moments of that ball game. When you get inside the red zone, the Rams' inability to put the ball in the end zone and the Detroit Lions' ability to convert key third downs and get off the field on key third downs ended up winning that ball game. Now, to your point, I'm not too sure that's a recipe for success going forward because you got Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin coming into your building on I think it's on Sunday, and they can hang points on you as well. But again, I tip my cap to the Detroit Lions for getting it done. Much to my chagrin because I lost some money on it. But Villain, talk to me, man.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Can I have a question?
No. Villain, talk to me, man. You know, the Detroit Lions got the win, sir. Give me how you feel about it.
No.
Ty had a question.
Hold on, real quick.
You are the villain.
This is a little season. Wait. I'll let you go, Barry. I'm gonna put a little season on you, please. I'm gonna do this quick, probably within 10 seconds. Since they are missing, they're missing the opportunities in the red zone. They have 3 field goals, 9 points in the red zone, and everybody's talking about Puka, the offense. How about Matt Stafford not scoring the ball? This is what I've been living with while he was in Detroit. They kicked the ball a lot with field goals not getting touchdowns. You know how many field goals? Oh, wait, hold on.
Now I'm regretting letting him go because he's stealing my thunder.
Right.
I'll see you guys too. Sorry.
That was a long 10 seconds.
he literally went in my head and took my points right out of my head. I love Timeless.
That's what Timeless does, man. That's what Timeless does.
Because he is so right because it was such an even matchup, right? and the score bared that out, right? You're looking at the teams on third down. They were both 3 for 9 on third down. They both made a fourth down play. The yardage was pretty even. Matt Stafford had more passing yards, more total yards for the Lions. But when you looked at red zone efficiency, the Lions scored 3 touchdowns. The Rams didn't. They were 0 for 3. The Lions were 3 for 3, and that's where the game kind of got swung. Obviously, being at home, give the Rams credit. The Rams, they were 3-6 at one point this year, Brian. Like they were dead in the water. They looked completely lost. They reeled off some wins to get to 10 wins and get into the playoffs. But, they ran into a buzzsaw at home, a team that wanted it, a city that needed it. Jared Goff wanted to get this game to, because everybody talks about Matt Stafford leaving or, requesting a trade and the Lions granting him the trade and saying, it's time for us to move on out of Detroit. What about Jared Goff, who basically became the scapegoat and the reason why the Rams lost that playoff matchup against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
it was all
the Super Bowl.
on him being a number 1 overall pick and being cast aside and say, we can't win with you. You're the reason why we lost this Super Bowl to the Patriots. And he got a little bit of redemption, right? So you got to give Jared Goff his due. After the 2-minute warning where I thought, God, they could give this ball right back to the Rams, not run off any clock. And he hit that 11-yard pass to St. Brown and put the game away. Give Jared Goff his flowers too, right? Yeah. So I totally agree with TP. I'll give him the floor back because it was his moment, his game.
Oh, yeah.
But the efficiency in the red zone, the Lions, they had everything going for them. I agree with you. The secondary gave up a lot of yards, but they bent and didn't break. And that was the really key. And the Lions, they just did what they had to do at home to get that win. And give them credit too. Not a lot of credit, but listen, the Rams could have got that field goal, but they got that holding penalty, knocked them back. They had to go for it on fourth down, and it came to Matt Stafford having to make a play, and he couldn't do it. Right, TP?
Right. TP, talk to me, man.
Yeah, I'm trying my best not to, delve into my boy because I'm out of my mind hype about the situation and just watching, the feedback that I got. Immediately after, that hook route that St. Brown ran. Once he caught the ball, I fell on the floor, and then I get a text from I get a text from somebody that sent me 18 letters and it said it's over, and I'm like, I'm trying to be calm about it. I'm like, yo, I don't want to see no penalties. I'm like, I need to see zeros because I know the history of Motown. So I'm like, yo, listen, y'all relax. But to give Detroit credit, because I did more talking about the Rams than my boys, I want to apologize to Jared Goff because when he first came to the team and was having his ups and downs, there was a lot of injuries, and I didn't know if he was the guy that the second year was bumpy to 1-6 start, and then he ran off to 8 and got us close to a playoff. And it's like, what do we do in this year? We got off to an immaculate start, knocking up Kansas City. It's like, what do we have? What do we have? How far can we go? There's so much youth here. It's like, is it just that first game or what? And it rolled to 11 more wins. Yeah. Them having a 12-win season, I can care less if, of course everybody wants to go 17-0, want to have a perfect season. It's not guaranteed that happens. But for what Jared Goff was able to do, even if one of us had a phone call come to us, be like, hey, Mr. Simmons, how you doing? Or Mr. Jordan, how you doing? Or Mr. Hughes, how you doing, right? Picture 65,000 people screaming 2 words, Jared Goff, for the next 10 minutes, and the other team just got rid of you we don't need him. But they know they hear that. They know the reason why. Detroit, I love y'all for that, for real. And one of the unsung heroes of this game that set it up for this game and really didn't do that much damage, but did damage in the game was Amon-Ra St. Brown. All of the work that he did throughout the season, just like Brian said, that first quarter, they had attention to him. It was wide open for Reynolds. Open for Reynolds. They were tearing him up. Do you know that Goff didn't have an incomplete? The ball didn't touch the ground till the second quarter. Do you know how dangerous that is? If Goff is killing you like that, let alone the offensive line is rolling. They lucky Gibbs didn't get started. Gibbs would have got that engine rolling night. That's what I'm like. Halftime it made it a game because it was I think Ben Johnson wanted to see the response the Rams were going to give us something. I don't know what that was because they were scoring that well. I was like, I can't believe my eyes. I feel like it's a dream. Like I'm throwing water on my face, everything to calm down. Like please, Ty. Like
So what do I say?
like I'm like no. So, but it's stunning that these guys are able to do it. I don't even want to look past Tampa Bay, even though we played them already this season, because I know they're gonna come out guns a blazing. I know we got to try and deal with Evans. I know that's the receiver I worry about. I like him a lot, a lot.
Different
Godwin,
team.
I respect him a hell of a lot too. But it's like the chip on Baker's shoulder. What happens at this point in time too? There's so many factors in this game coming up that I'm concerned about that Detroit have to put their head to. But like I said, there's a chance that they could have one of the biggest games back in 30 years. They went to the NFC Championship 30 years ago against my father's Redskins. I miss you, Dad, forever. But this time could come right back to me again, 30 years later again. Whether it could be at home against our rival or on the road against my big brother sitting right next to me.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how that game shakes out. We may have to jump in here in the building and talk about the divisional rounds, playoff matchup, because there's some matchups and we're up against time here. With that being said, I need to talk about what took place yesterday.
Rapid fire, baby. Everybody gets 30 seconds. Come on, man.
30 seconds.
Get it moving, Chips.
30 seconds.
Let's get this rolling.
You know what I'm saying? The Pittsburgh Steelers laid an egg in Buffalo yesterday. And I'm gonna need a little more than 30 seconds to talk about it, so I may have to do a finger food. But for me, gentlemen, it came down to a couple of things. It came down to missed tackles, and turnovers. We had the ball in a goal-to-goal situation. Mason Rudolph threw a pick. We had a couple of Bills ball carriers dead to rights. Josh Allen a couple times. He makes a move, gets out of there. He breaks off a 50-some-odd yard run. And again, I'm not going to sit here and throw a hissy fit about officiating because, again, if we don't put ourselves in a position to make the officials a problem, they wouldn't be a problem. I'm not going to sit here and throw a big smoke about the fact that we were, down a couple linebackers. We've been down a couple linebackers all year. It felt like, and I'm not going to make that claim. But it came down to me, gentlemen. We didn't get off the bus ready to play. We spotted them 21 points before we responded. We can't turn the ball over in the red zone, and ultimately this is the fifth loss. And Mike Tomlin's playoff ledger. A lot of people, a lot of people are going to say fire Tomlin. I'm not going to get into that. I'll talk about that at a later date. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to talk about how they saw this ball game. Breaking news. I'll come to you first, sir. Talk to me.
Go ahead and start the shot clock. So, thoughts on the game? Obviously, unfortunately, serious. I said Buffalo was going to win. And they did. It's unfortunate, but I'm going to say some painful things that Steeler fans really don't want to hear with my 30 seconds. Pickens needs to go. He's soft. He's like Charmin.
Wow. Really?
Harris. Najee needs to go. The only guys I saw any fight from was Fairmouth and Deontay Johnson. I will say that one play where, in order to pick up the first down, Fairmouth had to literally run over that DB. That was hilarious. Literally, depleted that dude. Steelers need to get back to playing Steeler football, man, and really get more physical. And this is what I would say. I'll end with this because everybody's gonna talk about the game. I think, I said at the very beginning of the year in the late, great Kobe Bryant when he said, you guys are soft like motherfucking Charmin. I said that about the Steelers. And I got to tell you, I still think it applies. I think Mike Tomlin, if not for DeMeco Ryans, nobody else outside that knows really anything about sports would agree. I think Mike Tomlin had one of his best years coaching, having to hold this shit together. The glue, trying to make the pieces work. That dude is an incredible coach. I'm just going to call it what it is. He is an incredible coach. That team is a sub 500 team with 90% of the coaches in the NFL. And to take that team, a team that had Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterbacks, and make them not only and Mitch Trubisky, thank you, but make them not only competitive, but a winner that makes it to the playoffs, pretty incredible. So kudos to Mike Tomlin. He's not going to get any votes, but if not for DeMeco Ryan, he definitely should have. Moving on.
Tom, let's talk to me.
I don't know how to do this, but Mahalia Jackson was thinking, no, I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna leave her alone. But look, the crazy part about everything that happened, we all sat here in Sports City trying to warn my little brother right there, Mr. Simmons. I was like, listen, y'all without TJ, it's like Harold Melvin without the blue nose, y'all will never go platinum. Like there was no way I felt that was going to happen in Western New York without their biggest star, let alone Brian and you, Sirius, you mentioned at the same time. This is a team that the quarterback that was supposed to be the guy was Pickett. He's out. The backup that was garbage was Trubisky. He's out. And I know him too well. I'm an NFC North guy, and he was struggling against the Lions when the Lions were having their bad seasons. And then you go to a situation with Mason Rudolph. I feel like Mason Rudolph is trying to give it all he can so he could keep a career somewhere else in Pittsburgh. Like, y'all already trying to sell him down the river, and he's trying to save y'all season. So it was tough to see that happen, even though when they scored a touchdown, I'm like, okay, well, is Pittsburgh going to get back in the game? And it was like, no. Like, once I seen Josh Allen take that run, and it really felt like the Steelers didn't want to chase him. They did not want – it was like you're letting a quarterback – you're out running corners. Like, corners don't want to chase you because they all – that's why I felt like it gave up. That's one thing I was talking about my dad. Don't give up, bro. Don't give – and literally and from the 50, I can see if he was running from the 30 and he beat y'all to the step and it's like, okay, he gets to the pylon. From the 50 to watch him just run and everybody around you 60, how many thousand people in Western New York going crazy, screaming they face off with snowballs and heck no. Hey, that's a lasting memory. Like, you got back on that bus to catch a quick plane back to Pittsburgh because it's quick. Pittsburgh ain't that far from Buffalo, but they flew. Right? They didn't catch a full bus, but they had to get to Buffalo International fly. That's going to last for a while because, look, what happens now with Pittsburgh? Hayward's going to be gone pretty soon. TJ's going to be gone soon, like probably in a 5-year window. I don't know how much is left in his tank. Like, what happens? Are y'all trying to kick Tomlin out of the city? Wait, send Tomlin to me. Like, let him run my defense. Since I'm having problems with my defense, Tomlin, you come over here and jumpstart this thing. We can go crazy and start rocking. You know what I'm saying? Like, if y'all want to get rid of this dude that is not going under 500 ever, like, okay, fine. You're crying about losing in the playoffs. Okay, you give him some pieces, GM. Like y'all got to do work upstairs. Y'all was outmatching that Buffalo game at the end of the day, and Buffalo was hurt and still outmatched y'all. Like, they're missing pieces. Tre'Davious White not playing. Like, I got you. I cook, but this is what I'm just telling you, man. Y'all got to get it together soon. I don't want to see Tomlin go, but if they get rid of him, believe me, I'll be outside with a moving truck U-Haul. Like, I got you. Don't worry, I got some people too.
Helicopter ride, the whole nine.
Right. Villain, talk to me, man. Pittsburgh laid an egg. Everybody called it but me. Tell me how you feel about it.
Listen, I didn't think Pittsburgh was going to win the game. You know, Pittsburgh is like TP and the boys said, Tomlin's a hell of a coach. I've always said that he's one of the better coaches in the league. Doesn't get enough credit for how this team should be rebuilding. They hung on too long to Ben Roethlisberger. They didn't have a real quarterback last 2 years. They should be at the bottom of the draft with the Giants, picking in the top 5. And Tomlin's such a damn good coach that he won't let you do it because he's going to give you a winning season. And this team should have been 12-5. But that's how good of a coach. This team that didn't look it should be 12-5. That's how good of a coach he is, right? So, you know, I look at that game and I say, you know what, you just ran into a team that was hot. They've been in playoff mode for over a month. As much as people kill Josh Allen and company, Josh Allen played his best game of the season, no turnovers. If he plays like that, that's a team that can go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I know the Ravens are really good. I know that they have problems beating the Chiefs. But if Josh Allen plays mistake-free football, you ain't beating that Bills team. And that's a scary proposition. That secondary is playing really well. They got pressure. They got in Randall's face a lot. They couldn't run the football really well. I mean, the Bills did a lot of good things. Their receiving core, they've turned a corner. I think they're looking good. I think now you got Diggs involved, the tight end, the rookie. We said that this was a pretty good tight end class. I don't know who's got the better. I know who got the better tight end in Laporta in Detroit, but everybody thought Kincaid was a pretty damn good tight end. That
McBride looks pretty good too in Arizona, man.
Arizona, yeah, McBride looks really good, yeah.
There's some really good tight ends that came out of this draft, and those three teams got some really good. Detroit got, I think, the best tight end. I mean, Laporta is just unbelievable. But I mean, you bring Kincaid across from Diggs, that looks like a pretty good proposition. And I'm telling you, if Allen takes care of the football and still can make the plays that he can make, that's a tough team to beat. You got to go into Buffalo. The only time they have to travel is if they have to go into Baltimore. So it's a really good football team. The Steelers just ran into a hot team that nobody really wants to play right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can, rest my head at night understanding the fact that, this was a team that was put together with I Love Jesus bubble tape and glue. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I felt as though we had enough pieces to at least make this interesting and give us a shot. We cut it to 7. And then, our bugaboo all year kind of rose us like we had with missed tackling and not capitalizing on the moment. My father and I is going to do a finger food about it the season later on, probably, end of this month. But before we get out of here, I got to talk Philadelphia Eagles, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thank God my wife is asleep.
Holy cow, man.
So all the expletives that she would want to say is not going to be said here. But Thomas, I'm gonna give you the ball first with this one. What in the world happened to the Eagles? This was crazy. Give me how you feel about it.
In the same tone of voice that you just said, what in the world? I want to use your voice, but I want to kind of make in your mind. I want you to close your eyes and visual back to a movie I was raised off of. All of us pretty much. If you didn't watch it, then I guess get Netflix or whatever you need to do to go watch it. But it came out in the early '80s, and there was a guy, and they built a character off of him outside of this, and his name was Apollo Creed. And he gets into a ring with a guy named Ivan Draco. And Ivan Draco's from Russia. And they don't nobody know nothing about this. He's 6'4", look like a monster. He's looking at him like, oh my goodness. I still remember Paulie looking at him like Jesus, talking all type of stuff. And then they get in the ring, and I still remember the dancing that he was doing, listening to James Brown. This is Philly. They walking down the ring, living in America. They go down there, all that brand. And next thing you know, they punching. They throwing their best punch. They think they punching. And Tampa just looking at him like, throw the punch. And then you just seen the coach over there, Bo said, now! Poof! He said, throw it down. Throw it down. That's exactly what happened in the middle of Tampa Bay. They literally had, I couldn't even believe my eyes. And it feels like the same shock when everybody's watching Drago beat up on Apollo. I could not believe that this is a favorite in America. They just went to the Super Bowl and they were getting beaten like they did not go to the Super Bowl. There's so many disarrays from coaches leaving, Sirianni, with a lot of people thinking that they should let go of him, at least give him one more year. Be fair, but people would rather see him leave. Personal situation for me is DeAndre Swift left us to go home. Where were you? You know what I'm saying? The running game didn't exist. At all. It literally turned into nothing. It was Jalen Hurts running for his life. The AJ Brown injury, I feel like it loomed. It's total disarray from the way that defense was from last year, the pieces that they lost coming into this season, the way they started this season and had a good spark from being 10-1 and winning tooth and nail games to running into so many buzzsaws. I really feel like, and he's here, and I'm saying it on behalf. When they played the Niners, I feel like that was the nail in the coffin. Everything was taken out of the soul in Liberty Bell City, a.k.a. the brotherly love. And I feel bad for Philly. And I really feel bad because on the same day, the Simmons family had to go through it from Aaron to Jess, they both she probably looked at him like it can't be us, and then it happened. I don't even know what happened that night. Did they sleep in separate rooms? Like
Yep.
I don't know, man. It had to be terrible, and I understand. They probably had to hug each other. That probably made their relationship. Well, let me stop.
Made it stronger. TP made it stronger.
Right. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? They need each other at that point. But no, now is the question on do they get a new coach like Harbaugh or Belichick? I don't know where Philly goes, but their hands are full in this off season. I wonder what they do.
Yeah. Villain, I thought to you, sir. The silly brotherly love that didn't show up last night in Florida. Talk to me about it.
This can't be life. This can't be love. I know y'all was singing that, right? That Jay-Z song, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be more.
There's got to be more.
This can't be us. But listen, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Godfather 2. Yeah. And near the end of the movie, when Michael is on trial before the Senate, and that his friend didn't flip on him, and then his lawyer, says, Tommy Hagen's like, this court owes an apology. It owes us an apology. Serious, you owe me an apology. I've been telling you for weeks that it is over for the Eagles. They were going to go into Tampa Bay, run the tape back. Run it back, and listen to the villain tell you that the Eagles were going to go into Tampa and get the doors blown off of them. Get the doors blown. Listen, I've seen it for a month and a half. There is problems in Philadelphia. There are serious problems. First of all, I want to give Tampa Bay credit because they did what they had to do. If they were a better team, they're a good team. If they were a better team, they would have hung 50 on this defense.
Yeah, they had a couple of drops, dog.
They had drops. They settled for field goals. They could have really put 50 on this team. The Eagles are a mess. That something is wrong with this team. Sirianni is not safe. I don't care what anybody says, because to see this team, they were what, 10-1 at one point. To go from that point to where they looked like they didn't belong in the playoffs, like they didn't belong with any of these teams in the playoffs. I'm talking about, you could have gave me the worst team in the playoffs. They did not belong on the same field with them. They were awful, and they don't tackle. They had no heart. They cowardly Lions, lion with no heart, 10 men with no heart. You know what I'm saying? They had nothing for them. They couldn't cover. I'm telling you, the talent was there. This is the line, defensive line, offensive line that got it done last year. They can't win blocks at the offensive line. They can't get off blocks on the defensive line. They couldn't tackle in the secondary. They couldn't get open with their receivers. They gave Jalen Hurts nothing to work with. He's sitting in the pocket holding the football, trying to wait for somebody to get open. Nobody's open. He didn't trust anybody outside of Devontae. It is a mess in Philadelphia. I know the owner is looking at this and like, who the hell do I fire first? Because it is a mess out there in Philadelphia. And as a Giant fan, cry, Eagles, cry. Cry, Eagles, cry. You can't win a game because your team is trash. I don't know which one I liked better, the Eagles losing or the Cowboys losing. I couldn't stop dancing. I felt like Ric Flair. Woo! I couldn't stop dancing. It was great, baby.
Yeah, brother.
Oh my goodness!
I couldn't hold these alligators down, Brian. I couldn't hold them down. Woo!
Brian, talk to me, man.
Hey, listen. I'm gonna keep it 100, man. I'm just gonna cut you out because I gotta jump on this. I have literally, and I said this to you guys earlier, and I don't mean to disrespect our Philly fan base. They deserve better. I'm just gonna say that they deserve better. I've seen high school teams that tackle better. I have never seen so many missed tackles in a game. Go back, do yourself a favor and go back and just watch I believe it's Josh Palmer. Or I'm sorry, I apologize. Trey Palmer. Watch that catch and run. He breaks like 7 tackles. Like nobody wants to tackle on this team. That's the first thing. I don't know what's going on with this team. It's not a talent thing. I'm just going to let you guys know that. Everybody wants to say, hey, it's a talent thing. There's something more internally broken than that. Like somebody called somebody's mama a name. Like, Hurts looks like, does not look like the same leader we saw early on. The other thing I would say is I don't know if he's hurt and they just ain't saying it. What happened to Jalen Hurts running the ball 10, 12 times a game? He ran the ball one time.
He's hurt. He's definitely hurt.
Yeah, he ran the ball one time, boys. That is a staple of this offense that this offense relies on. Yeah, they definitely missed A.J. Brown, but they're missing Jalen Hurts being able to run. And I'm going to tell you, listen, I'm not a big, like we've talked about all show long, a big blame the refs for different things. But when you're a team and you're struggling, right, and it's 16-9 and you get a penalty and you're like, hey, you know what? Let's do the tush push. We all know we're good at it. It's unstoppable. We're going to pick it up. It just a little extra boost of confidence, and you don't get it because the defender basically rips your quarterback's head off with a face mask and they don't call it. Man, I'm sorry. That's rough. Yeah. That is rough. It's not like rough in the sense of like the Detroit Cowboy game rough, like where it just directly cost you the game. But I mean, that is like the one thing that they do well and they're kind of quote unquote known for this year. And even that didn't work. I think that it was pretty much a wrap at that point. 16-9, they never recovered. The offense never looked the same. They couldn't really move the ball. It was just like you guys have said, it was by far the worst performance of the week, and Dallas had 48 hung on them. It was actually worse than that game. Like you guys have alluded to, Tampa Bay just not as talented as Green Bay. Like it was that bad. It was really, really bad. Philly wasn't even a warm-up game. I will actually go as far, I'm going to be as disrespectful to say, if they played Georgia right now on a neutral site, Georgia wins that game. If they play, Texas, Alabama, even Washington, our national champions, Michigan, like they probably are losing to those teams with the way they tackle. And I hear what Ty is saying. I know they just made the playoffs last year and it's probably never been done. I think Sirianni's lost the locker room, guys. I think what we learned is those coordinators and Steichen and I can't remember the other cat's name, but I think what we learned, those coordinators were so much more valuable to Philly's success than the head coach is. Like Pete Carroll, we now know Nick Sirianni is a rah-rah guy. And rah-rah doesn't work when you're dealing with grown men, period. So I would not be fired. I would not be shocked if Laurie ends up deciding to go ahead and let him go, especially when you consider guys like Vrabel are out there, Belichick are out there, proven commodities that can coach. And if Harbaugh decides to make the jump, here's another guy, and they got to really, really do some serious deep evaluations of themselves, because Philly is broken. It is broken, man. This is not the 10-1 team. This is not the team that, hey, the other team gets up and then they come back. This team is a shell of their former self. They can't stop anybody. They can't tackle. They can't pick up first downs. Like if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the only time they scored is when they had a big play. If they didn't have a big play, they can't consistently move the ball anymore. They're literally relying on a big play to put them in a position to score a touchdown or a field goal. This team of all the playoff teams, Philly has the most work to do in the offseason, and I don't think it's close.
And look at it like this real quick, Brian and Aaron and Timeless. This was a team that was a pass interference or a holding call away from winning a Super Bowl. They went into the offseason. They added some pieces. They supposedly had one of the best drafts, right? They added some top flight guys through the draft from Georgia, and you saw none of that this year.
None of that.
You didn't see anything like that. This team was supposed to be better than they were last year, and they looked worse. They regressed. It's a problem. Sirianni is in a lot of trouble.
Hey, and real quick, just to expand on that, Aaron, keep in mind that this team added a safety from Tennessee. They added Josh Sweat from Washington. So not only is this team absolutely horrific, they gave away viable draft capital that they could be potentially using to fix the problem. So they're going to have to make either trades or have to address this in free agency because they do not have the same amount of draft capital that most teams do because they've already given up 3 picks to bring in these players that was supposed to help them on a championship run.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't want to sit here and think that.
And by the way, Samuel's right. Bradbury is trash.
Oh yeah, Bradbury is horrible. I didn't want to.
I'm a Giant fan. Why do you think we cut him for nothing? We couldn't give him away for bad balls.
I'm just saying, Deebo Samuel's right. That boy is trash.
I didn't want to sit here and think that Sirianni's job was in jeopardy after a season of misfortune and injury and just playing badly. But as I sat back today and kind of read the tea leaves and kind of looked at, you know what, this brother's in some serious trouble.
Yeah, dude, he lost the locker room.
Some serious trouble. You got Dallas Goedert, going up to the quarterback on the sideline saying a bunch of expletives and things of that nature. This is coming on the heels of Jason Kelce announcing his retirement. So you got a whole new offensive line, quarterback, if you will. You brought in Matt Patricia to run your defense. Like, if that in itself does not spell doom and gloom to Sirianni, yeah, I mean, what in the world is going on there? Again, I'm not going to sit here and say A.J. Brown not being there didn't hurt the Eagles' efforts. I'm not going to sit there and say that Jalen Hurts not being healthy didn't hurt, but let's keep it a buck. Like, this team, ever since they played your 49ers, has been a shell of what they proclaim to be. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know I'm a whole fan. I don't believe you need more people. You know what I'm saying? Like, you go out and you draft all the Georgia boys and they're supposed to come together. Where, like you alluded to, Vaughn, where in the world were they all the latter part of the season? It baffled me to watch this collapse happen. And, Villain, you called it early on. I will give you your flowers there. You called it early on. However, at the end of the day, man, I did not expect this.
They had less than 50 total rushing yards in the entire game, and that's including Jalen Hurts. Now, in retrospect, Tampa Bay had 50 rushing yards in the first quarter. What has happened to this team? They have 3 guys in Lane Johnson and Kelce and the left tackle. I drawn a blank, sorry, but that are literally going to be Hall of Famers.
Right.
They're going to be Hall of Famers, and they literally they can't run the ball. Like, what has happened to this team?
Right.
It's insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for them in the offseason. They got a lot of questions. They need a lot of answers, and I think it all starts with kind of figuring out who's going to be the guy with the HC on his headset, leading the group. Obviously, I think Patricia's gone. Offensive coordinator's gone.
Go get Mike Tomlin.
You leave my guy alone. My man is coaching my Steelers next year. But with that being said, gentlemen, we are at the tail end. This was one great show. We went well over our expected time because there was so much to dive into. But before we get out of here, breaking news, give us a plug and a close as we shut it down, sir.
Listen, man, you guys already know SportsCityChefs.com. Go there, take a look. The boys have done some incredible content, have info up, fantasy football stats, and there's a load of other information. Make sure you check TikTok as well as YouTube. I actually downloaded TikTok just so I could start seeing your guy. Listen, now, when we're laying in bed at night, we're both watching TikToks, not just my wife. But no, you know what? Definitely check out the content. The editor, you know, for Sports City does a fantastic job with the clips, the shorts. Also, want to say there is some really, really good games this week coming up, like you guys alluded to. That Houston-Baltimore looks a whole lot more interesting than it maybe did a couple weeks ago. Green Bay versus San Francisco looks pretty darn interesting. There is a lot of really good games this weekend. So enjoy the slate of games. I think we're going to have a lot to talk about come next Tuesday. See you guys.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Breaking News, for popping on tonight, man. Timeless, give us a plug and a closeout, sir, as we shut it down, my guy.
I'm glad I had this type of night, man. I'm still like on cloud 27 because it's it's a cloud 9. I think it's times 3. That'd be 3 decades of that, man, at least, but I'm keeping it in my mind, and they've been saying it, but I was saying it before they said it. It is not over. We still got a lot to do. I don't even want to think about looking past Tampa Bay. Like, we got Tampa Bay this week. That's the opponent. It's unfortunate that Philly lost. I wanted to be Philly because they beat us last year. It's like just to try to get the redemption role and prove that we could be up against the best. But now Tampa proved that they're here. We got to go up against them and go try to chase our goal, man. And that's to be 2 or 3 Sundays away, whether it's 2 or being in the NFC or championship, or 3 being in my second home from home, man. I might be walking in Nevada if they pull that off, but I don't know. I don't want to count these chickens before they hatch. Again, this is, too much time in the making. Thank you to everybody that's been supporting us, showing us that love every single week as much as possible, man. Trying to get back on my feet slowly but surely, man. Through God's will, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend that it's the chefs again. And if they don't know, now they know.
Thank you so much, Thomas, for stopping by, man. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to share the space with you, sir. Best of luck to your recovery, man. Looking forward to kicking it with you on another episode, man. I may have to come out there to Connecticut, man. It's going to be fun to get out that way. Yo, Villain, talk to me, dude, man. Give me a plug and a close out to shut it down, my guy.
I feel no pain. No pain for the Eagles and Cowboys fans. I feel nothing for them. I feel nothing.
He said, "I feel no pain."
Yeah, right. No pain. Listen, it was a great week of football. Football is king. For everybody that downloaded Peacock, make sure you cancel your subscription. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Listen, get to the website, sportscitychefs.com. Like you says, I felt like cooking. Hopefully we get more chefs out there cooking, writing some articles, got some great content on there. Check out our socials. Like us on Facebook and Twitter, and like us on YouTube. Like the videos, you'll get more content, more shorts, and more everything from us. We got a lot of things cooking. Shout out to all the chefs, Brian, TP Timeless. Prayers up for the homie. Hopefully he gets another good week in Detroit. Shout out to Royce. I know he's in the background chilling, watching us. Shout out to all the chefs, James, Breaking News, Mike, Mr. Harvey, everybody. Shout out to everybody on there that makes this thing possible. Alan in the background, who you never see, but is always tweeting for us. Shout out to him. Everybody makes this thing work. It's a machine. We rolling, man. This is our year, 2024. Cry, Eagles, cry. Cry, Eagles, cry. Okay, all right. Peace. I'm out.
All right, my guy. Appreciate you, man. Yo, man. I tell you what, man. I got the best sports family in the world, man. It's such a privilege and a pleasure to do this with you guys every week. Before I get out of here, I will say this, man. Time is precious. Make sure you tell the family and friends, you love them when you got the opportunity. Again, shout out to everybody who's been rocking with us, man. All the chefs that's been doing stuff behind the scenes, like Barry alluded to. Breaking News, man. Pleasure, man. Timeless, good to hear from you. Big Voice, man. Prayers up to you and your family during your transition and everything, man. Can't wait to share the stage with you, sir. Big Mike, Harvey, man, Mission, my guy, get back in the building. Greenwood, Controversy, whether you are Eagles fan, a Dallas fan, I don't care, man. Shout out to you, sir. Dave, man, the nemesis to my existence, man. Shout out to you, my guy. But whatever, shout out to my friends and family who's been rocking with us, man, downloading the shows, man. There's so much love around Sports City right now. And I greatly appreciate it. But as TP said, man, tell a friend, it's the chefs again. And if they don't know, man, now we know, man, we gone.
Yeah.